Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow as on your potential as a coach. What we always love to do is we always love to connect with you. So do me a huge favor as you're making it into the room. See that down there? Go ahead and tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on right now, maybe at this moment. So do us a huge favor and tell us that, especially because I'm over here, like I'm way over here on the West Coast in California. I can't see you. You can see me. I want to know that. I want to be able to at least reach out and touch somebody. What was that? Did that used to be like? Didn't that used to be like Southwestern Bell? See, that shows how old I am. You know, that proves that I'm nearly 50 years old. How I can actually know little quotes like that, and then like, where did that slogan come from? Yes. So go ahead and jump in the chat really quick and say hello. I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you, so it's always just a little bit of a delay. So I will wait on you for just a moment. I'm coming off an amazing weekend with a bunch of people from all over the world who spent the entire weekend in boot camp to get trained and certified. There is Maritza, at least it says Maritza in there, but her name's Ida from Dunbar, West Virginia, attended boot camp this past weekend. There's Joan from Bakersfield, excited about cooler temps tomorrow. We've been in the 80s. We were through the weekend, and it was actually because we won't run any kind of fan or air conditioning in the studio. So all of those hours, finally, I don't think anybody noticed it last night, but there was a moment in the middle of the live training when we were doing role playing that I went and changed shirts and got into short sleeves, and no one said anything. I don't know if anybody noticed or whatever, but I was like burning up because it was getting like really hot, and even with LED lighting that we have in here for everything, it was getting a little bit warm. So yeah, it dropped to like 60 today where we are. Angela and Munich, totally jazzed to be here. Even though it's 2:15 a.m., you are the hero. We had 3 people this weekend. Angela was one of them that were joining us at morning times, like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So we had someone from, obviously Angela's from Germany. We had someone from Sweden, I believe, and someone from Ghana who are in the room, and they were just like, it was early morning hours when we started and everything. So that's amazing commitment. Diana from South Carolina. Bart says it's AT&T reach out and touch someone. That Bart would know this. You know why Bart knows these kinds of things? Not only is he my age, but he also does commercial and voiceover work. If you've ever heard his voice, you're just like, have I heard this voice somewhere before? So you would know that information. Amber's joining us from Tennessee. Little factoid, that's where I was actually born, even though I'm a Louisiana boy, which we were watching the Super Bowl, watching our Louisiana guys on the field, but they lost, unfortunately. Kareen, happy Monday. Paul and everyone. Kareen in Arizona, excited that I finally ripped the Band-Aid off and coached during a role play. Yes, you did. Last night, after boot camp had wrapped up, should say yesterday, because we actually got done, at least with our time, around like 3:30, 3:45. So I missed the very beginning of the Super Bowl and got over there. But one of my friends locally who's in the industry texted me, and he said, "Hey, how'd your boot camp go?" And I said, "You know what? I'm not gonna lie. We had some people there this weekend that are going to be really fabulous coaches that really, if you saw people performing, you wouldn't have believed that it was their first time ever doing this thing." So I was really so impressed with a group of people. And I will say this, always impressed with a group of people who join us in boot camp every time. And just all of you that I get to know on a personal basis, it really is my honor and privilege, because we're talking about people who for a lifetime have helped people in some degree, some form or fashion. That's what's true for most of you. And you usually had a real defining moment, sometimes a really hard moment, a difficult moment that really was a catalyst for you actually wanting to become a coach. And so really the coaches that I meet and the coaches who come through our program are some of the most amazing human beings ever. So on top of that, seeing the skill level, like it was like, wow, like they're just doing it. And then the next person, oh, they're just doing it. And so it was really like, this was live stuff is always a highlight for me anyway, when I can just really engage and train and help coaches and everything else. And so it was really a lot of fun. I should be like dead tired after it all, because in your body physically after you go that long, it's supposed to have been, it was like the equivalent of walking around and doing work for over 100 hours, like the way that the body feels it. But I actually like feed off of that. And it was like, I did take a nap. I did go to bed at a decent time. I took a nap earlier today, but man, it was a great weekend. Let's see who else. Ida says it was amazing. Happy to have met and connected with you. Still looking forward to that poem. Yes. All right. Well, here's what we're going to do today. I thought I would change it up. I know we're in a series, and we are in a series, but I didn't feel like I could put in the adequate work for the series that we are in for today, considering the fact that I was legitimately completely tied up for the entire weekend and a lot of the past week. Let me give you a preview for next week, though, in the series that we are in, because we're talking about those things that are barriers to coaches actually getting started, people who really feel the strong desire, this pull to help people professionally as coaches. Next week, what I'm really going to be talking about is the part of your story that you believe is a disqualifier. We all have a past. Sometimes part of that past is disappointment. Some of the things in our past, and I'm not saying necessarily even mistakes. Sometimes we have disappointment. Sometimes we have choices that we made that didn't really benefit us, didn't help us in the long run like we hoped. Sometimes things just happen to us in our life. We have different kinds of disappointments. Sometimes we started and stopped things. Sometimes we started things and we just didn't finish well in it, and sometimes that wasn't always our choice. In a lot of cases, a lot of coaches believe that those things are a disqualifier, or they look at themselves and they say, you know what, I'm not finished yet. I haven't really come into my own yet. Can I really help people? And they feel like it's a real liability to starting. So next week, we're really going to talk specifically about that barrier, of the disqualifiers, about your own questions about your credibility. And are you improved enough? Have you gotten up to that level yet that you really believe that you can help other people? And that is actually part of my story as well. And I would say that it's a pretty common story for a lot of coaches. So we're going to talk about that next week. So expect that. That's going to be the preview for next week. What questions do you guys have for me this week? I'm going to jump over here. You can throw them into the chat, and I will pull them up and answer them. So go ahead and just pop your questions in there. Anything that you're thinking about, anything that's coaching related on the skill side, anything that is business related, any kind of questions that you have right now that you feel like, man, I really wish I had the answer to this, or I really wish I had this question answered to see if this is really a good fit for me moving forward. Go ahead and throw that into the chat. Obviously, you guys are 30 seconds behind me, so that makes things a little bit challenging. There might be a little bit of a delay, but go ahead and throw it on there so that I can help you guys. Let's see. I'm watching it, but I need you. I need you to jump in. Help me out here. We're live, and I went live with no prior questions on here, so waiting on you. Hey, Pamela, how's it going? When you first started, what kind of a setting were you in? Well, I'll try to give you. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that question, but I'll try to give you the picture of everything that was going on in my life at the time. In my life at the time, I had so just to give you just a short bio on that. I had a previous career where I had a certain level of success, but I also kind of leveled out in that as well. Part of that was the fact that my wife had a major chronic illness that was just taking all the resources out of our family. And I don't mean that in to say that negatively. We really had to try to rally around her, and I had a job that was taking all of my time. Plus, we had 2 small kids, and there was all of those things that were going on. So I had made a big decision to move all the way to California, in part because I thought we would get better medical care for her. And I also thought that the climate would be more conducive for her to get well, because in the South, there's a lot of heat and humidity and all of those things. And so we made the huge move. And I took what I thought was a pretty certain, like, it was a job. It was risky in the sense that, California costs so much more money than the South and everything else, but it looked like a solid job, a solid offer and everything else. So we took the job, and I got laid off 4 months later. Like, I didn't know that everything was just going to fall apart in the economy. And so I got laid off like a lot of other people. So we lost our house in Florida that we had. We lost everything. And matter of fact, for about 6 months, I was unemployed. And there were some real decisions that I had to make. And I felt like a total failure, because I'm like, man, I made this major decision, moved our family. Now we've lost everything. We literally went homeless for a period of time there. We had to put all of our stuff in storage. And fortunately, there was a couple of people who had moved all the way out to San Diego that I knew from the South, which is the craziest thing. I mean, there's just like no chance of this, right? So some people that we had known years before, and they were from Mississippi, they'd moved there and they'd moved their families there, and it was crazy. And we ended up having a place to stay for a period of time until we figured out what we were going to do. And so I took another safe job. This one was safer because there was some real priorities in our life. For one, I had to have medical care for my wife. Also, I didn't need anything that could just, like, the job that could go away. Like, I wasn't looking for the top job and I wasn't looking for the bottom job. I took kind of like a middle position that it would always be there. And it would also allow me to only have to work 40 hours a week. But that also, it tightened things up. It was like really hard financially to actually make it. I had already been helping people for years, just helping people get breakthrough, serving people and everything else. And so I had started learning about coaching, learning, training myself, doing a lot of those things, reading things, all of that. And then I was like, I knew that I had to create some side income, but I also couldn't take just any job, because the only jobs that were available, especially back then, were, jobs that are maybe $10 an hour, maybe $15 an hour. And I would have done it, except it would have taken me away from my family. And it also wouldn't have filled in the gap for the finances that we actually needed. So we were literally we were barely paycheck to paycheck, because my first check of the month, my first check and about a quarter of the next check paid our rent. That's how expensive things were in California, or are in California. And so what I did is, I took a big chance. I worked. I mean, I worked really creatively to go get trained and certified, which was costing thousands of dollars, because that was the only thing that was truly available during that time. Like, when I talk about sacrifice, I made major sacrifices in my life to try to make that happen. So I was in the San Diego area. And what I did, of course, it was a big city, and some people were like, oh, big city in California, that means that starting a coaching practice is easier there than in my town. But it's not actually true. What you have to do in any city that you're in, whether it's 10,000 people or 3.5 million, which is the entire region of San Diego, is that you still have to have a community of people. You have to go find that community. You have to make connection in it, and you have to develop relationships in it. And I knew no one, because I wasn't from San Diego. So I didn't have any prior thing. I didn't have any roots there. I had no one. And so even my friends from Mississippi who allowed us to live there for a while, it's not like they knew anybody, because they'd only moved there about 6 months before as well. So it was literally starting from scratch to build a business and to become known and everything else. And so I also had a certificate, but then I had no business knowledge and I had no business training. And what's true about most coach training schools is they give you no information about business, and what they do is kind of poor information about business. So I was starting from scratch. I would go to the library, read books, try to figure it out. What are some of the good books that have been written out there about coaching? I'd go to Barnes and Noble. So some of those things I didn't. It's like I would sit there and I would read them, like get them off the shelf and read some chapters. And of course, I did my own online research about some things and everything else to figure out some sort of some semblance of a plan. And I did make some mistakes on the front end of those things, but that was the setting. That was the backdrop of I have nothing to even invest in my business. So if I have less than $0 to start a business, how would I do that? And that's how I went about it. And thankfully, it actually came together pretty quickly. As I got out there and met people. And for me, I was starting a traditional coaching practice. So I just joined a networking group, but I had to find the right fit of people. So a couple of them that I went to, a couple of them were paid networking groups that I didn't have enough money to go and jump into. Plus, I didn't have like some big background and stuff. But what ended up happening is that once people got to know me and saw my heart, I actually had some people who began to vouch for me, that they were like opening the doors for me. And I was getting to get into places that they usually wanted someone, we only want people in this room who have been doing this for like 20 years or something like that. But I would have people who were vouching for me. It was the craziest thing as I started working and actually helping people and everything else. And I was telling our boot camp this weekend that the craziest thing is that if you'll start actually making a decision and start moving towards this thing in your life, and just, even if you don't know what you're doing, but you'll make some real choices that involve true action in your life. You can't really move a parked car. But if you'll start moving, then all of a sudden you start to find your direction. Now, what we did is, the result is that we ended up building this school and then building a business development program out of it because I wanted to help coaches. I was thinking about coaches that were like me, mostly because it was like, hey, you know what? If what did I need? I needed confidence. I needed some support. I needed a real path so that I don't have to go through these problems. So everything that we've built out in our school, all of it was me. I was, how many people are trying to change their career in their 30s or 40s or 50s? And there's a lot of uncertainty and all those things. So everything that we've built out was around that. But like I said, that whole setting around there in San Diego and everything else, it still there's a lot of people, but you still have to find your community. You still have to find connection. You still have to develop relationships. Now, a lot of people are coaching online. Fewer were back then when I started. It was still very, very new back then. And so even if you're going to be an online coach, you still have to find your community and you still have to serve that group of people. But the easiest thing that I tell people today is that if you're going to be a traditional coach, find a couple of places to find home, serve really well, if you're just a face there every week that people come familiar with, you're automatically associated by default with an equity of trust, being around the people because you're an associate. Then you're part of the gang, and so just seeing your face is part of it. But if you can find a way to serve that group of people, and it's not always in coaching, sometimes it's just showing up. And I'll tell our coaches, one of the hacks, if you want to join traditional networking groups, is go there and be the communications person, because communications is always terrible. Be the person who directs communications to everybody. You know what happens then? You get everybody's phone number, you get everybody's email address, you get to know everybody's name. And so now it automatically, and it doesn't feel like you're selling something. You have to talk to these people because you're trying to open the door to their business and help them and stuff like that. And so just a role like that alone, people who join nonprofits do that, not only sit on the board to help people get money or whatever, but they're also meeting people who are really needing who are really looking to get to the next level, high achievers. I'd say that a lot of people who are looking to work with coaches are high achievers in many cases because they've gotten to a certain level in their life and they're trying to get to the next level or whatever. And so for me, what ended up happening is just making some choices towards some things also put me in the line of fire for great things, people to find me, people to open the door. I told some of our coaches this weekend, I had people who never used my services, but opened the door to my business all the time, which is a crazy thought. but they saw people getting results, and they say, you know who you need to talk to? You need to talk to Paul. He always helps people do this. And I'm like, this guy has never actually experienced anything that I do, and he doesn't even know what I do, but he knows my reputation. And also because I've served people, even in this group or this community of people, that he's opening doors for me. And so that was the backdrop. That was the setting. I know that was probably more information than what you wanted. I think that whether you live in a small town, big city, like the reality is that wherever there are people, there is an opportunity to serve, and there's a business that you can actually create in that. And so I think that that's true for small towns. I think that that's true for big cities and everything else. Matter of fact, in some respects, being in a smaller area, a smaller town, allows you the ability to network and be known really, really quickly if you're looking to become a traditional coach. Bigger city, you still like, oh, there's a lot of people, but you don't have, like, I didn't have access to 3.5 million people. That was just the population of the county. What I had to do is, okay, where do I think that my people are? Where can I build a network that will begin to open the door for my business? And that's how we did that. In the exact same way, the whole setting can be, you're also in a small town, or like Angela's all the way in Munich right now, and it's 2:30 in the morning or something like that, and she can help anybody that she wants to in the world. Just starts with serving people, finding who they knowing who you want to serve and what solutions you want to help people get, what main problem are you helping people solve, and build your business around that, and then go and find those people. I would say these days, especially because of the way the internet has grown and how people are so much more connected online than what they were even when I started my business, that it's much more common. Like, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like when the recession hit. Do you know when the recession hit, we got Airbnb and we got Uber, both launched as companies. Before the recession, if somebody said, hey, I'm just going to get online and I'm going to get a ride with a total stranger, we'd think you are crazy. Or I'm going to go to the city I've never been to before in Tennessee, and I'm going to stay in this stranger's spare bedroom. You'd be like, you're going to get killed. Don't do that. You never would do that. Except that what ended up happening is that people, for one, got more comfortable with connections online. Also, the ability to follow up and actually develop a relationship online. Thirdly, the other thing is that what was going on in the world financially when not COVID, when the recession hit, they were like, oh, you know what? I want to travel, but I don't want to spend $500 a night or something like that, and I want to be more comfortable. These days, Airbnb and Uber has grown up so much that people of all walks of life and all incomes use it. One of the businesses that we own is an Airbnb. And I have, like, the people who stay with what we do are driving like Audis and like all kinds of craziness that I will see, because they're just like, oh, they're just like people who see this as the alternative. It's amazing how probably that same person back before the recession would have been like, there's no way I'm staying in someone's spare bedroom. There's no way I'm staying in someone's guest house or something like that. I'm going to get a fancy hotel. But this is how the world has really shifted and everything. And so we really have that opportunity. It's a new day and age. And the cool thing about starting a coaching practice, as I even proved out of my own business, if you have no money, you can still start a business and it can be profitable instantly. Like for me, I had one pair of dress pants and two dress shirts that I alternated, and hoped that no one would notice that I was kind of wearing the same thing pretty much every time that they saw me. And it did. Like for me, it happened pretty quickly, and I feel like I was learning pretty quickly. I still made some mistakes, but that's why these days it's like, I watch the people who are role playing this weekend, practicing coaching, and I'm like, these guys are going to crush it. Like I feel even in my heart, they're so much better prepared than I was back then, and they can totally do this. So, all right, I think I answered that about with as much detail as I could. Hey, it's Cookie. How's it going? Very cool. Yolanda's joining us from South Carolina. Let's see. On average, how long does it take to go through the program? And do you think people can be ready to start coaching clients after doing the training in the boot camp? Thanks. Well, here's the way that, now I will say this. Let me preface it with this. We're getting ready to make some program changes even in the next month. We're basically, we're upgrading all our offerings. And reality is that we've continued to do this for a really long time now, from what we were originally doing back almost 10 years ago when we started our program. We've incrementally changed and given more and added more without also adding to the cost of what we do. If you are wanting to start a business, now we have an entry-level course. We have a boot camp program, which is the weekend that we just did. And we also have a Jumpstart program, and I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. It's really about what is your end game and what are you trying to accomplish and what do you feel like you need. In my opinion, if I was going to start a business, at the very least, I wouldn't try just the entry-level program. I would do boot camp at minimum. It's only $247. It's a steal. And that way you are going to be trained, and trained, at a deep level. And I will say it's intensive. But if you do it, you can do it self-paced, but you can do it over a weekend like we just did. And what I do is I pretty much give you about several days of training, but we do it in an intensive, accelerated way. So you're kind of like, in some respects, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, but you still get it. And the other thing is you continue to have access, and you can audit a future one, so that what I believe is that coaching's more caught than taught. It takes a while to really come into mastery. It comes from experience and practicing things to really get it. It comes from practicing and actually working, because that's why we have a coaching practice. It takes experience. So part of your question was, do you think people can be ready to start coaching clients? Here's the thing, is it's practice. So you're never going to be truly ready until you start doing it. Like, you just have to start doing it. It literally is skills that you actually have to put into action. I think that most coaches wait way too long before they start working, because they're dealing with their own imposter syndrome and perfectionism and everything else. The reality is that you just need to start. Practice as much as you possibly can. And some of the skills that you learn, you can start utilizing with people in your family and friendships, work relationships, all of that. You don't have to tell people you're coaching them. You can begin to listen on a deeper level and ask better questions than what you are. But having said that, if you're wanting to actually build a business, if you're just wanting to get like, hey, I want to get trained, I'd like to utilize that. Because reality is that we have some nonprofits, we have some companies who will come in and, they just allow either their managers or their employees to go through our entry-level program. And that's all they need, because they're not trying to start a business or anything else. If you're wanting to actually be a professional coach, at minimum, I'd say, do the coaching boot camp, because there's live Q&As at the end of every one of those sessions, and there's role playing. So you're going to actually see people actually practicing the craft, and you can do that as well. And again, you can audit a future one as well. So you can always come back, and you have the replays accessible in your dashboard and everything else. If you feel like you need business development help, then I might as well just go ahead and I'll say this. I was going to save it for later, because I'm going to keep answering questions, but we have a Jumpstart program. And what we did for Jumpstart is it's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. And that's not really a lot of money. It's $3.25 a day. So that's like Starbucks, right? And what we did is, not only can you get trained and certified, you also have access to join a boot camp. While you're in the program, you can come and join a boot camp. But Jumpstart is the business development program that I wish I would have had when I started out as a coach. It's the A to Z on how to develop your business. Everything from how do you discover your target market? How do you discover your niche? How do you sell? How do you find your clients? What would be a weekly strategy for my business? Because I would say this, most coaches go and get trained and certified, have no clue of how to find their people, what's their first steps, how to choose a niche, how to do messaging. We have We have a thing called Brand Camp, this 13 and a half hours that just shows you how to develop your core messaging for your business, how to wireframe your website, what colors should you choose for your website. We show you how to do search engine optimization. What I show you just in search engine optimization is what these other companies charge thousands of dollars for. Because I actually have gotten number one on Google, organic search, not a paid search. Organic search gotten number one, first page of Google, and I've helped other people do that as well. It's not rocket science, but I give you that. That alone is worth thousands of dollars. That exists right there in that program, and it's something that you can implement yourself. You don't need a professional to do it. Not only that, we do a live group call every Wednesday, so I answer any questions that our current coaches have, skill questions. I'm stuck on this. Will you give me feedback on this thing that I'm working on? I just worked with this client and I was able to record it. Will you listen to it and give me some feedback on what I'm doing? We do all of that because I never want our coaches to feel like they're doing this thing alone. So all of this stuff is self-service. Jumpstart has hundreds of hours of training at this point. That program has been in existence for a little over 6 years. And so there's hundreds of hours of training. You'll never use it all, but we do have a 3-month minimum commitment to be in that program. And when you sit around and you do the math for everything that we offer, there's no one who's coming close to everything that we offer. Most schools do not offer anything on the business development side of things at all. But we don't want to just give certificates to people. I want you to be proficient as a coach, and I want you to kick butt as a business person. I want you to thrive in every way possible. And so that's why we've created all of these resources in that kind of way. We could charge a ton more. Thankfully, matter of fact, Jumpstart was $99 a month when we first started. Now it's only $97. So it's like, these days, the people who are paying for it are paying $2 less a month, which is saving you $24 a year. You could use that on coffee or something like that. But really what we've tried to do in all of this is just support our coaches to the best of our ability with what really works. I'm not bragging right now. I just want you to have the information. I'm a multi-six-figure coach myself. And that's important for you to know because there's a lot of people who are doing training that have never been successful as business people. And you just need to know that because you need to know that you're learning from someone who these things actually work. And it's an important thing. And the fact that we've continued learning about how do you implement in a lot of different areas. I mean, we've been very successful online as well. So being able to learn from people who've been successful, while at the same time, you're not paying thousands of dollars a month to guess about it. And the other thing is that what we do in our program, we don't give you a shrink wrapped program from the standpoint of you have to do it exactly this way and that you're going to be a Paul Dabdoo clone. You're not going to be that. You're going to build your coaching practice around you as an authentic coach. That's what we're trying to do. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Let me see what other questions are in here. Angela says, our job as coaches is not to tell the clients how to do things. Could you give an example of a topic or for a webinar or content of a lead generation PDF that is not just telling them how to do something? Well, here's what we've got. So what you're talking about is an information product at that point. So here's the way that we would understand things. And I'm going to walk off camera just to grab a book and just so that we have like an example of something along those lines. If I can actually just find it like sitting here, that would be really good. But I should just have it like sitting accessible or something like that. But I'm just going to grab this one, and it's a good example and a terrible example all at the same time, but you'll get the point. If you look at anything that would be considered self-help, because this is essentially what a coach is going to do with a PDF or a webinar or a program that's online or whatever, is what you're essentially doing is that you're creating a structure where you are not completely dependent for what is in there. You're essentially creating something that is that's an information product that is also self-help. So like I just grabbed this book randomly. I have other books that I just, for whatever reason, can't find at the moment. But here's this book right here. The Like Switch, an ex-FBI agent's guide to influencing, attracting, and winning people over. So there's information in here, and the way that most of these books will read is that you're going to find information based on someone's personal expertise. I mean, I know you are in the arts world, and you probably have a lot of different experiences and everything else. So you're going to lead with a bio, kind of like this guy's bio, an ex-FBI's FBI agent's guide to influencing, attracting, and winning people over. So what are we doing? First of all, if I'm going to offer a workshop or a webinar or a program, the way that I'm going to start it is I've got to talk about something that someone wants. So it's something that somebody desires, or we're going to lead with the problem that someone has, that this webinar or this workshop or this coaching program is going to address. I'm going to build this thing along those lines. So what we have to understand is that when we have an information product, or when we're doing something like that, what we're essentially doing is that we're giving them a tool to be able to facilitate them being coached through whatever we're doing. Because again, we're not doing one-on-one coaching when we're doing these kinds of things. What we are trying to do is that we're trying to give them a tool, or we're trying to give them information by which they can walk themselves through the process, or that it can kind of guide the process. So from that standpoint, you are coaching, but yet you're not coaching. You're providing information, you're providing a resource, and you're providing tools. From your experience in everything that you've done, especially if you're working with artists and you're pulling from the art world, you're an expert in this area. You're an authority in this area because of what you've done and all of that other stuff. So I'm grabbing from that, and I'm talking about maybe part of the way that you guide people through is it's kind of like, hey, I got a breakthrough. I went through the ringer in these parts of my career, whatever it's going to be. But let's say that someone's trying to become successful in a particular area in the arts. Let's say that their problem is they don't seem to be able to follow through and finish up projects. And it's something that you wrestled around with for a long time there. Let's just say, hey, creative. This is a workshop for creatives who are struggling to actually finish what they started. And that's kind of it. And I'm going to show you 3 steps that can help you achieve a momentum, get your momentum back, your mojo back in this thing, and actually complete it. All right, so that's what we're going to do. They understand what the problem is, and here's the solution, is that we want momentum and that we're going to actually finish this thing. So if I do a workshop around that, probably what part of that workshop is going to be is you're going to share some of your own personal experience, your challenge with those things. Because for one, you are going to talk about yourself in terms of who that individual is. I'm talking about myself as Angela, but I was probably my own client at one point. Usually for most of you who are listening, you're going to be a coach of people who went through what you went through, the steps. What did you do? You found the steps to get to where you are. You found some resources. You found some tools. And so what we're doing is that we're resourcing people. Now, here's the thing about it, is that when I go for a workshop or an online program or whatever, it's not VIP coaching, like one-on-one at that point. What I am doing is that I'm trying to walk them through some of the tools that I found helpful. And I'm also facilitating them, possibly if I'm live with them on a webinar, or if I have an online program, I might supplement it with some live stuff. I might even shoot some videos that are really short that talk about the problem at hand. Let's say 3 steps to get momentum and finish what you want. 3 steps. So week 1, if it's an online program, week 1, here's the first thing that I want to talk to you about. This is what happened in my life. I found myself, I was at this age, shut doors, perfectionist, everything else. And then I discovered this. And it's probably a tool that's also around some kind of a truth, some kind of a point. And now we're going to give them a tool that walks them through that first thing. And so they're kind of coaching themselves when it comes to that. Or maybe you're asking the questions when you're in the workshop. Maybe you're asking the questions when you're in the webinar. So that basically what they're able to do, because you're with a group of people at that time, you're facilitating them through to get to a solution, whatever that is, that first step, that first action item is what you're doing. Second point, exactly the same thing. You might have an anecdote. You might have had something where I discovered this thing, and here's what I found can be really helpful for you. Time management. This is what that looks like. Here's how you get rid of that excuse that you don't have any time. Here's how you find the time. Here's how you do this. Bam. And then we walk them through the three points. So it just looks a little bit different from the standpoint of, on a one-on-one coaching relationship, that looks like something. But what we want to do through webinars, workshops, any of those kinds of things that we're doing is that we want to, for one, live in our lane as far as like, hey, this is my gift to the world, is the fact that I love the people who are in this industry or who look like this or have a story like mine. I'm passionate about them. I want them to get to the next level. I want to share some of the tools and resources that I was able to find. And you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to those things. If you find something that isn't even related to that industry, but it really works, might be an assessment, might be some kind of a discovery or whatever it is, you're walking them through those steps. And what we hope is by the end is that they are helped in a real tangible way, that they feel experientially like, wow, Angela, she's amazing. Like, she really helped me in like an hour of my time. Like, I feel like I got some work done. I felt like because they're putting in all of the work. You're structuring it, but they're putting in the work because everybody's got maybe a different answer or whatever. And now that they feel like they've been helped, now they're like, oh, maybe this would really make a lot of sense to work with Angela, because if she was able to do this quickly. So PDFs can be tools. I love live. I love anytime that you can get people live with you, that they can kind of interact. That's where a lot of that rapport comes from. And I know a lot of people do PDFs on their website. That might be a first step to get somebody in an email list, but we're just looking for ways to be able to serve people. So think of it in terms of, I'm sharing information and I'm sharing resources that are enabling them to be helped. When I first started my coaching practice, what I would do as well, and this is the way that it looked for just, because I wasn't trying to do a funnel strategy or webinars or anything else. What would happen is that I would pay attention when I was talking to people, and I'd get their business card and I'd usually scribble down a couple of notes. Here's what I want to remember about this person. This is what's significant about this person or whatever. Here's something that they said was a concern in their business. And what I would do is, if I found a resource that could be really helpful for them, or a podcast or whatever, I would resource that individual. That's how I did it on just a one-on-one level, just as a traditional coach. I'd say, hey, I really enjoyed talking to you the other night. I was thinking about what we were talking about, and after I left, I remembered this particular resource about that particular subject that I think could be really helpful for you. And I wanted to share it with you. And what would happen is they'd say, oh, that person actually remembered me. See, even back then, in a traditional way, that's the way that we were thinking is, can I share information, and can I share a tool, and can I open the door in some kind of way? Yes, me giving them a podcast is not me coaching them, but I am sharing a resource that is beneficial. And now I've built a rapport, and they trust me, they like me. And when they're ready, then it's going to be a no-brainer that we're going to work together, right? All right. Bart says, flashing back to the coaching that you did covering imposter syndrome, that threw up some amazing red flags in my life. Amazing, because now I can identify those tendencies in my own life. As freeing as it was, I'm still recognizing some habitual patterns that are no good. And if I'm worried, how can I help coach those that have come alongside me? Next week's going to be great, because that's exactly where that little series is actually going to take that turn. here's the way I think, just as a short answer to this. I think that for one of the things that's really cool is that when we've walked through our own process or are walking through our own process, here's what you guys are probably going to find are true about all of you. Have you ever had somebody come to you, and I'm not saying in a coaching way, but they just came to you in your life and they asked for your insight, asked for your thoughts about something they were going through? And the thing that they were going through is something that you had either recently went through or are currently going through. And all of a sudden you open your mouth and it was a genius response. And they were like, that was amazing. And they're helped in their life. And they're just like, holy crap, that was an answer for me too. Like, how did I know that? And it's amazing how these things kind of a lot of times lie dormant in us in this thing. So what I'm really saying in this is that we're at all stages in a lot of different kinds of ways to coming into our fullness in our life. Fullness for any of you. You're not going to even get to convergence in your life until you're in your 50s. It takes a really long time to actually get there. Now, some of us, we hit plateaus, we hit difficult things that kind of show up in our life and those kinds of things. But the reality is that what shows that you're self-aware and actually working and that you actually have credibility in this thing is that you're actually asking this question, that you're concerned about it, and you know that you are at work and you're identifying things that you want to change in your life. That's what I believe gives you credibility. Now, if you were in denial, acted like you had we know some people who are like this. If you were in denial and thought that you were perfect, or that you weren't willing to work on any of your stuff and acknowledge that you don't have all the ducks in a row, then I would think that you don't have credibility and you probably don't have a right to be coaching people, because none of us are a finished work. But the beauty thing about everything that we're doing is we all acknowledge, like I acknowledge, I don't have all of my ducks in a row. I have things that I'm working out in my life. But I will say this, and I believe that you can say this about yourself, Bart, like anybody else who's sitting here. If you went back, for any of you, listen to my voice right now looking at me. If you went back to your life 1 year ago, I guarantee you that you can see transformation that's happened in your life, that you're not the same person you were a year ago. Many of you are more loving than you were a year ago. You have more joy in your life than you had a year ago. You have more peace. You deal with people better than you did a year ago. You're more honest with yourself. You've worked on things. There's all of these things that are true of you right now than you were a year ago, because you're transforming, because you're becoming aware and you're actually working on yourself and you're developing these things. This is what actually gives you credibility. And that we know that, we're never going to fully arrive, thankfully. And thankfully, the people that we're working with are never going to fully arrive, because we wouldn't have anything to work on, right? And so I believe that what gives you credibility is the fact that you are aware and that you're working on it. And who cares if someone's finished? I could say something about some specific helping roles of some people that I knew that have been helping people that had devastating things happening in their own personal life, while at the same time they're helping people with the very thing successfully in their life. And so sometimes the thing that gives you the most credibility is that you actually have a limp from it, right? I mean, I think that why I can speak very truthfully and honestly about the dreams that are in people's hearts and disappointment and all of those other kinds of things is because I've been through so much of it. Like my wife and I, we went through so much stuff in our first 10 years of marriage, and not bad stuff between she and I, but we went through so many things, from sickness to losing babies, to losing a house, to losing family members. Like I could tell you a crazy story, and most of you would probably look at me because most people, I believe, look at me and say, oh, he's just a young guy and he's never been through anything. The reality was, in the first 10 years of our marriage, we went through what most people have only gone through in their entire lifetime of being married for 30, 40 years. We went through the ringer. And I believe walking away with that, because I had a choice to not get bitter or to make a different choice about that. And I chose something different, thankfully. So I can speak with a depth of experience, because there's a real reality that, we're all going to go through stuff and we're going to have disappointment. You know, the guy who lost everything, got laid off, all this other stuff. I wasn't a bad guy. You know, I really wasn't. The guy with a 400 credit score who couldn't even afford to get bankruptcy and everything else. Like, I was a good guy. There was just stuff that happened, you know? And that's the reality, is that sometimes reality hits. Sometimes we make bad decisions. Sometimes people make bad decisions towards us. It's always about what did we do in spite of that. But it does give you an authority like nobody's business. When you have walked out some of the most difficult things, it gives you authority and a grace to bring into people's lives that's extraordinary. Let's see. Pamela says, while I keep fine-tuning my skills, I thought it would be better to do group sessions or even workshops until I feel ready for one-on-one. What are your thoughts? Coaching's coaching. I don't know that group gets you any more prepared for one-on-ones, and it's just a different dynamic. But coaching's coaching. And in my opinion, you just go, do as much practice, but here's a reality. There's certain inward disqualifiers that hit even when you practice. Like, if somebody was like, well, I don't feel like I can start until I've done this enough. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go get some practice and then I'll feel more confident. Okay, cool. I've been practicing, but I still don't feel like I'm good enough because I haven't been getting paid for any of this. This has been free coaching. See, what ends up happening is that we keep moving the chains. Moving the chains is like, in football terminology, is if we keep I'd say moving the goalposts. So we started out and I got trained and certified, and all I needed to do is hit an extra point, 20 yards back, and that's a gimme. But because I keep creating these things in my mind of something that is going to give me more confidence or take this fear of failure away, what I do is I keep moving the goalposts. And so now I'm 30 yards back, 40 yards back, 50 yards back, to the point that I know some coaches that are still going and getting coach training 5 years later, and they've never even started their business. That is in and of itself imposter syndrome. That is someone who's fear of failure. There's whatever is going on there. The disqualifiers are getting so high. So in my opinion, you just need to start. When you start, you can figure out where you need to go and get more training, where you need to enhance your knowledge. Because it's in those sessions when you're kind of like, for one, you need to see that the coaching process actually works. You also need to find what your style is and things. That comes with experience. Mastery in coaching comes from just utilizing the tools and the craft, and then also finding some, because you're kind of like, oh, now I discovered that I really like this group of people. What kind of tools can I use with them? How can I shorten my sessions so that I'm not going long? It's supposed to be a 1 hour session, but I'm doing an hour and 15 minutes. Can I be more effective in that and everything else? So just go out and do it. Don't hold back. Don't give yourself any reasons for not waiting. Our coaches who got trained and certified and finished up last night, last thing that I told them is that in the next 24 hours, you need to make a clear, irrevocable decision, one that is action, that allows everybody to know what you're getting ready to do and actually do it. And then the longer I believe that you wait on starting, the harder it's going to be to start, because we need some momentum. We need to get movement. And we also need to if we're going to say, hey, I want to get practice for a little while, fine. Know what your end game is for that, what outcome, and how many practice sessions are you going to limit yourself to, rather than just practicing forever. Because there's also some coaches who get trained and certified and they just free coach everybody because they still have that inward disqualifier that's going on in there. I don't feel worthy to get paid to do this, or you can give me a donation of whatever you think that I deserve or whatever. And it's like, no, we need to go after whatever is telling us that we're not qualified and get started, So I'm going to encourage you to start, but you can, but I will say, look at your business. And if group coaching is actually part of your business, decide how much of your business is going to be group coaching and how much of it is going to be one-on-one coaching, but don't let one make you like, If you wanted to just make your business group coaching, you could absolutely do that. I'm very much into creating multiple streams as a coach because now I've got multiple ways of serving people. I can maximize how many people I can work with, and I can make, and ultimately you're not leveling out in terms of how much money that you can make in that. But if you're wanting to do one-on-one, then I think that you should get started in doing it. How often do you do boot camps? Do you have a date for the next one? So we were just doing this one. Most cases we do them about every 8 weeks. That's what that cycle is. And then 4 times out of the year we do it, or 3 times out of the year we do advanced skills training, which is a higher level certification. We're getting ready for some program shifts that are happening within the next week or two. We're just ironing out how we need to do this because it's going to impact a lot of things that we do. I don't want to speak too early because we're still negotiating these things out of what makes the most sense for our students. But it's possible that boot camp starts becoming a monthly thing. So what we're really trying to do is that we're really trying to upgrade the quality of our instruction again, and also the quality of our students, because some are having to wait, and we're not trying to force people to go through live training, but we want people to get a certain amount of training, and we also want people to have the availability for practice sessions. And there's a lot of different things that we've been thinking about of like, how do we go to the next level without adding without adding costs? How do we give more? How do we serve people better? And so I don't think it's going to be 8 weeks away for the next boot camp. You always have an option of doing boot camp self-paced. So if you enrolled today, you could we've got like 2 years worth of boot camps that you could actually access. And the one from this weekend is more than halfway already posted. Like it's already halfway processed, and it's up there. Everything from that weekend is actually there, and you can actually just move through the modules and get all of that training. But what we want to do is that we always, in some kind of way, if we can make live accessible for everybody who wants to do it, and we do, but sometimes people are like, man, I don't want to have to wait 2 weeks for live, 2 months for live, and I really want it like immediately or whatever. Well, we're not going to do live stuff every week because that would be extraordinary amount of effort, and it's almost impossible to do that feasibly. So we're just trying to figure out a fine line in how we do that. Easiest thing is in the immediate, you can enroll in boot camp, go through the replays, and then you can also audit a live one. That's probably the best gift that we could give to people. And that's what happened for some people who got in late in December, because we did a December boot camp, but some people started enrolling in December and January. Some of them went through the replays and then joined us live this past weekend. So totally up to you. Corrine says, my niche is relationship couples coaching, and I'm in the process of building my website using the wireframe and Brandcamp. Do I need to develop a program before I start making offers? You could. I mean, it's not 100% necessary, but I will say this. Being able to, and what you're learning in Brandcamp is the fact that, and it's what most coaches do not do, is that when you go on their website, you don't know the way that you put something on a website really needs to look like, who is this for? And what is the one thing that you actually help people get? What's the one problem that is the pain point for this individual? And then what are like, if I was going to offer something to someone, bam, 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 like here's the 3 features of this. Here's how I actually help you. Here's what you're going to get out of this program. Here's what you're going to get out of this coaching. So at the very least, we need to at least have the information that's there. Do you want to develop a program? We are going to very soon. It's in the works. We're going to create another resource for Jumpstart. We're probably going to do a weekend workshop on it that is all about developing essentially your signature program for your business. And we're going to show you How you do that, a lot of the resources are already there in Brand Camp if you wanted to do that just around a particular program, and it's just one page around that. But there are some steps that I would say, and that first step is, again, what is this here to address? What is the pain point, and what is the solution that you're helping people get? And then what are the resources that people are getting? Like, we call them features, but it's like, are they going to get videos from you? Are they going to get tools from you? Are they going to get one-on-ones? Are they going to get weekly groups or whatever? Like, all of that kind of fits in there. So what I would say is it easier to sell a program than a bundle? It's easier to sell anything that describes what the person gets, specifically, and that it really details specifically what is the pain point that we're addressing and that they're getting a solution. So we never sell coaching because no one knows what coaching is. It's always problem solution. And so you can make that into a program, or you can at least make it appear to be. When you say program, I mean, that's kind of a loaded word. That could be online program that has videos. It could be a program even that a traditional coach has. That means that there's live and online elements, or there's live elements where I'm working with a person, but I have some other way of delivering these tools to them or whatever. I mean, program's kind of a vague, ambiguous word because it can be a lot of different things. And so I would say, as long as whatever you're offering is defined in a way that it's really clear what the deliverables are, and that people know what solution they're getting, and they can see, because they basically are able to look at, well, now I know what the value is out of this program, because they're giving, she's going to give me 10 videos, 10 steps, 10 sessions, 3 tools, whatever that looks like, so that they're actually seeing that as value added things at some point in the web page or whatever. So that's why creating a program allows you to do it in that kind of way, because they know they see what the problem is and what your offer is. They've got to see some components in there, so that in their mind, it's not like a coach saying, what's going to be a bundle of 4 sessions for $500. You know what they're doing? They're saying, this is $125 a session. This is $125 an hour. That's really hard to sell. So we want to talk about the solution, the problem and the solution, and some deliverables in it, so that they see the value behind what we're actually trying to accomplish. So hopefully that's helpful. I know it's a little bit vague, but I can only give so much details probably off the top of my head too. Amber says, thanks for sharing. That's good stuff. Thanks for answering my question. You are welcome. You are welcome. Angela says, thanks. You're welcome. Ida says, can I have more than one niche? Well, here's the way that I describe it in one of our trainings. Think about it as dating. You can only date one person at a time, right? And why is that? Well, for one, because people get confused very easily. And so the only way that I would tell a coach that they could do more than one thing is if it fits under the same umbrella and it makes sense. So like a little while ago, someone was saying, yeah, I'm going to do relationship coaching or whatever. As long as it fit under relationship coaching, then that could probably make sense. I would start with one niche, and then you can branch out afterwards. I always use the example of Amazon. Amazon, they sell everything now, but where did Amazon start? Some people say, well, Amazon started with books. No, they didn't just start with books. They started with used books, and not just used books. They started with used textbooks. That's the way that they actually started. If you go back, I can remember their original website and buying things off of it. And that's where they started. And then as they satisfied that niche really well, then they started getting new books and then all kinds of different books. And then they started offering other kinds of things along the way. And now they're just like they're a beast now, right? But it had to start, what do? We start with one particular group. We start with something that's very focused because it hones in your message. I think that most coaches, we don't know who they're helping. We have no clue of who they're helping and what problems that they're helping people solve. So you'll go on most coaching websites and they have all of the coaching cliches and they have pictures of themselves stacking rocks or doing yoga poses. And you're kind of like, okay, is this a yogi? Are they an instructor? Am I taking yoga from this person? Like, no one really knows. And so that's why part of it is if you can hone in and dial in on one niche. And I'll say this, there's plenty of people in one niche. Like you can even find a micro niche. Like you can find a niche of a niche and crush it and make 6 figures as a coach. So I'm just going to encourage all of you, if you guys are afraid of choosing a niche because of scarcity, there is no scarcity. There's 7.5 billion people. It's easy just to find 5 and make 6 figures off of 5 people than it is to find 500 people and charge a fraction for your services. And so I really want to encourage you on that. There's plenty of people. Choose a specific niche to start. And then as you're serving that, you can change your niche at the time that you want, or that you can branch out. But let's start with one and do a really great job. And then we can build past that. Cooking with Jimmy. Do we email the certificate? No, actually, when you pass the exam, you're able to generate your credential ID and your certificate after that. So all of that's online as far as that's concerned. Because we want to make that simple. The other thing about your certificate that we do as well, it's a unique credential ID. We have credential ID lookup. We host your certificate. So you're able to actually pull that link into LinkedIn and all of those other kinds of things as well. So hopefully that's helpful. When do you do advanced skills training? Boot camp was so worthwhile, highly recommended. It's probably going to be in like April. It would be my guess. It's not on the schedule right now. As a matter of fact, we don't even have a post about it anywhere unless might be able to dig around on our website somewhere and find something about it. But that's probably going to come in April. Again, what happens in the coaching world, just like anything, is that not everybody is really looking for advanced training. That's a tight niche of people who are looking to go to that level with their skills. And ours are all of advanced skills training is all based on breakthrough kinds of things. So part of it is brain science. How do belief systems form? The person that you're working with that you have in front of you, knowing how the brain works, how DNA is impacted by it, and all of these other things. That person who's in front of you, how did those thoughts and beliefs and all those things function to get there? And then for the next day, we go through each one of the primary drivers behind why people do what they do. Because if we look at those primary drivers and we coach people in those in that triad, I call it a breakthrough triad. If you actually coach people through those things, then they can get breakthrough pretty easily, and they can find a way to really sustain it. So that's what we actually focus on. But that'll probably be coming in April, and we really only promote it to our alumni. We don't really promote it publicly because you have to have that prerequisite of getting of boot camp out of the way before you can do it anyway, because otherwise you'd be completely lost. But you'd be a good candidate since you spent the weekend with us. So thanks. You are welcome. Advanced skills training, nerd food. Yes. So funny. All right. Well, cool. Well, we're in a little bit of overtime. Let me just pay the bills one more time, and then we're going to head out of here. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, there is a link inside the description where you can get more information about Jumpstart. It includes every one of these programs. So you can get trained and certified. You can get a live online weekend boot camp out of it. You can also what our Jumpstart students do as well is they also role play with one another. We have a weekly group call for the people who are part of that program. We give you an A to Z business development roadmap. so that you can be successful as a business person and getting your practice up and going. We have Brand Camp, which is about 13 and a half hours just on marketing messaging, website development, how to even write an email, how to write a sales page. Like all of those things are actually included in that. All of these things that you see on here, and we're always adding to it. Hundreds of hours of training that's actually available at your fingertips when you enroll in that program. It's only $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. It's worth thousands of dollars a month, I will tell you that. But we make it affordable. We put it within reach because I never want you to think that, hey, this is out of reach and this is impossible or whatever. We've taken that excuse out of everybody's hand. The time excuse and the financial excuse, we've put you in the driver's seat to be able to do this. And so you can get enrolled in about 90 seconds and join us. So anyway, well, listen, I appreciate everything. Angela says, great follow-up after a fantastic weekend. Thanks so much, Paul and team, and all of you who asked questions today. See you. Awesome. All right. Yeah. Well, it's probably like 3:30 in your time zone right now. I know I was in, I told Angela I was in Germany a couple of years back. My passport went missing. I got stolen while I was there, and it was during the government shutdown. And so none of the embassies were open at all until January 1. And the only one that was open was all the way in Berlin, which was 6 hours away. So I had to get on the Autobahn, go all the way over there. The person who was driving me on the Autobahn was like 120 miles an hour. And I was freaking. Like, you think that that's going to be cool. And then you video it and you're like, this is like terrifying. But the cool thing is that I was gaming with my little girl while I was over there, even though we were like major time zone differences. But it was like early morning for her and whatever that time difference is or whatever. And I was like gaming with her and stuff like that. So it was really interesting trying to connect with family and connect with home and do even business. So we really, because I was gone for a few weeks, we literally had to like set up so much automated stuff during that time while we were there. But beautiful country, like, and the people are so warm, like some of the best people. Some of them had been to the States. I mean, I don't know. Whenever I meet Europeans in general or people outside the United States, I always think in general, they seem to be a little bit smarter. Like they at least know more than one language. Sometimes we're just kind of like, why don't these people speak English when you go to other countries? And you're just kind of like, no, you're in their country. You should speak their language or whatever, but Europe's pretty cool. And I should travel more after everything gets a little bit simpler with travel. I keep hearing that it's going to get simpler, but hasn't quite gotten there yet. All right, everybody. You would love that, but you also love to ride motorcycles too, Bart, and I would never do that. Now, I did ride a scooter for a while, but it only went like 40 or 50 miles an hour, and I was taking back streets and everything else to do it, but there is no way I'm going to get on a motorcycle. So anyway. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for that, Angela. All right, everyone. Well, we are going to head out for the evening. Listen, I appreciate you immensely. Click that link. You can get more information, and we will see you later. Take care.